I know you guys have a very high standard for service as well. And for me, that's the difference maker. We're in a service business, we're in an experience economy, and our clients have a lot of options when it comes to who manages their money and who helps them with financial planning.
Welcome to the Rainmaker Multiplier on Demand, a podcast for leading financial professionals, or rainmakers, and their teams that offer support for securing a successful future. From marketing help to staffing structure, listen and subscribe for actionable insights from advisors and skilled professionals alike.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Rainmaker Multiplier on Demand, where we talk about everything practice management in terms of running a holistic wealth management business. I've got a really amazing special guest on today, and my good buddy and fellow advisor, Tony Engrassia. Tony joined C2P. What was it, Tony? Maybe 5-6 years ago now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and you've made just such a huge impact at the organization and the culture and the community. You've been able to help give back to so many of our advisors. And so we really appreciate all that you do and kind of sharing and the camaraderie and the resources. But today we're going to be talking about something I know you've got a lot of expertise on. It's really something that's helped you continue to build and scale your practice. And the topic is building client connections through a higher standard of service. And so I'm really interested to jump into today's topic. And I know this is also really important to me as I think about Alison Wealth Management. We were actually reviewing some of our core values as a company when we were doing our annual planning meeting. And something that actually Brittany on our team, who's one of our client service associates, kind of recommended as one of our core values is something she referred to as 11-star customer service. And I just loved that. We adopted it as one of our core values. And Tony, I know you guys have a very high standard for service as well. And for me, that's the difference maker. We're in a service business. We're in an experience economy. And our clients have a lot of options when it comes to who manages their money and who helps them with financial planning. So before we jump into the topic at hand today, Tony, share a little bit of your background, who you are, how you got into this business, how you got connected with C2P, and then just maybe a big kind of overview on your practice, your team, the clients that you serve, where you're located, and then we could get kicked off into some of the meat of client connections and service standards.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. I'm honored and privileged. You know my name, Tony Engrassia. I'm the founder of Wealth Management Strategy. It is a holistic planning company. Dave here in North Carolina, not too far from you. As you can tell from the accent, it's not from the South. It's from Jersey. I left Jersey in '83 and went to school at University of South Florida in Tampa. And I left Florida, ended up in a small town called Rocky Mount, North Carolina in 1990, where I started my insurance and financial services career. In fact, in the South, they call me a damn Yankee. Now, a Yankee, one that visits and leaves. A damn Yankee is one that visits and stays. Right. So I just tell them,
you're pretty much a Southern boy, though. I mean, it sounds like you got down to Florida around the same year I was born. So you've lived most of your life down South. I think we can call you just a Southerner with a New Yorker accent.
I just called myself a smart Yankee because this one's not going back. Right?
There you go. A smart Yankee. I like it.
Yeah. And you know that you could take the Yankee out of the North, but you can't take the North out of the Yankee. Right. So I have 3 children that were born and raised here in North Carolina. And I call my daughter, she's the redneck princess. Right. So she's got the Southern accent.
There you go. Well, I remember when I moved down to Charleston, my uncle was living down here and he said, Dave, I got one rule for you if you're going to live down here in Charleston. He said, I know you're from up north where you want everything to move at a faster pace, demanding everything now. We operate a little bit slower down here. And don't come in here and ruin that for us.
And Dave, that is so true. In the South down here, it's a different approach, really. It is such a slower pace. And that's why that what we call red carpet service is so important down here. In fact, I have two offices. I have one in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, and another one down here where I'm talking now from Atlantic Beach. But if you ever come to our office in Rocky Mount, my first suit jacket I bought from Goodwill is hanging on my conference room wall. And it was a present. It was an emotional present, but I share that with my clients and I tell them not so much to brag, but I want them to know where we started and why I got to where I was. And it's by providing that service. I came to Rocky Mount, North Carolina, and I started my career in the insurance. And what's the first thing you're supposed to do in the insurance business? You write down all your friends and family. So my list was really short. I had nobody, right? So I had to figure out some way how I was going to create these relationships. And that's where we created that red carpet services. Been in the business 32 years, very blessed in the business. And now I just feel I have a lot to give back to the industry because it's given me so much.
Yeah. Now, Tony, do me a favor. So 5 years ago, you and I had a conversation because of a mutual friend, Gina Pellegrini, who is your coach at Strategic Coach at the time. And she's also a partner at C2P. She helps run our practice management division. And I think she's very, very well known in the financial services industry. And she's just a rock star when it comes to being a coach and practice management and leadership. But she introduced us, and you at the time were with a pretty large broker dealer. And talk about 5 years ago, your business, your team, what it looked like, what you were doing. And then fast forward to today, 5 years later, plugging into a lot of the infrastructure that C2P and Prosperity Capital Advisors, as your RIA, has been able to provide, and kind of where the business has gone, just so that everyone can get a sense of the scale of what you're operating now and the growth that you've seen because a lot of these things you've implemented over the last 5 years.
Yeah, that day I'll never forget because I'm a big believer things happen for a reason, and I'm not going to go into all the details now, but it was a game changer for me. I stepped back and looked at my company, and I didn't realize how captive I was, and I had to make a decision what was best interest of my clients, my family, and my business. And when that all lined up, and that day that I talked with you, I mean, it was just like an epiphany that hit me that I knew what I had to do. And doubling my business in 5 years. And now again, we're going to be doubling it again. We're just about ready to hit 100 million, which we're really proud about. And we just created a new 10-year goal. I mean, our goal for our company, we're going to be reaching $1 billion in 10 years. And the team's on board. And this would never ever happened if I didn't create the relationships that I have with Prosperity Capital Advisors in C2P. And that's truly coming from the heart.
Well, I appreciate that. And I remember exactly where I was when we were speaking together for that first call. I was at Ed Slott's Elite IRA training, and Gina called me and she was like, "Hey, do you have any time?" And I was like, "I'll step out of the meeting and have a conversation." And I did. I was sitting there in the lobby of the hotel chatting with you, and the rest is history. So let's talk about that. So you've doubled over 5 years. You now have a set goal and vision to essentially 10x over 10 years. 100 million to $1 billion. You've got the team in place to be able to accomplish that. And I would imagine a big part of it is just this kind of topic we want to dive into today, building client connections through a higher service standard. So talk a little bit about what that means to you and some of the things you're doing to implement that higher service standard and kind of what you've built into the culture of the business.
Yeah, I've been blessed to witness, and as have you, significant growth and transformation in our industry. It's driven by technology, right? Regulatory changes and those shifting client needs. But what always remains constant is that importance of that top tier client services, right? And here's why. The exceptional service builds trust. And it's diehard or essential for that long lasting client relationship. Clients need that guidance, which requires that personal expert service. They want to navigate through that complexity. And by offering that service, we can tailor to every client's needs. We can deliver that greater value, which makes a meaningful impact on their financial success. And satisfied clients stay longer and they refer others, they fuel growth. And one thing, Dave, I always learned early on in this business, change is inevitable and we need to embrace it. Okay. And we got to adapt it. And that's what keeps us competitive.
Absolutely. So walk us through kind of the process. I know you've, really embraced the bucket plan and kind of the holistic wealth management process, but you've also added a lot of your own flavor, expertise, brand, and kind of how you implement in your business in your area. So just share a little bit about like how that process looks and what some of those conversations are, what some of that client service is, maybe some ideas for other advisors listening that they might be able to adapt in their own business.
Sure. Reinventing the wheel is not what we do in this business, right? So we take things and feel how it fits into our own personality and create it. But we connect with our clients through our strategic freedom process, right? It's a process that we've always had, but the conversation with each client is different. Even though we had a structured process in place, we recognize that each client is unique and the conversations with them need to reflect that. So for instance, you mentioned strategic coach Dan Sullivan. We asked that question with each and every client. So if we were sitting here, Dave, 3 years from today, looking back over that time, what would had to happen for us to feel happy with our progress? We would ask that with every client on beginning of every relationship. But the thing, Dave, we do a little bit further, we ask that question each and every year because we feel if we're doing our jobs and helping them achieve that vision, that goal, then we need to ask that question again so we have a new heading. And it's crazy how it sometimes turned from financial in the beginning, and then it's like they're wanting to go to Hawaii or we're starting to get that, instead of that bucket plan, we're getting that bucket list, right?
Absolutely. Talk about, and I agree totally, that Dan Sullivan question. If anybody isn't familiar with it, pick up the book on Amazon. I think it's just called the Dan Sullivan question. It's a real quick, easy read, but it's the very first question that we get to in our connection questionnaire process as part of the bucket plan. Because as Tony mentioned, like early on, when you ask that question, it's a big picture kind of thought provoking, strategic thinking exercise that in most cases, the clients have never done before. Nobody's really asked them that. And you get all the intel that you need to essentially deliver on making them a client. But Tony, I agree. I asked that question throughout the annual review process. And so many times, clients that have been clients for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, like it really doesn't impact the financial side as much, or the answers don't. It's more like what's most important about their life goals and their objectives and their family and their values and their bucket list. And I think when you could get to that level of a connection in your client service experience, that's where the true value is. At the end of the day, we all have the same stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, insurance products. Some of us have different expertise in certain areas, but it's that client connection that really makes all the difference in the world.
When I say that to the clients too, I said, I bet you've never been asked these questions before. But then I go ahead and say, you know what? Maybe they didn't care either. But I said, this is where I want to help you because it's not about the money, right? The money is a tool, right? Too often people put money up here and they have to match everything that money. When we say we're going to turn things around and we're going to talk about everything that's important, and what's going to happen then, it's going to tell you what you need to do with that money, right?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, we both know as business owners, you can talk about this stuff, but kind of everything lies in the details. So tell us, what are some of the things that you do to make the client feel seen and feel special? Like even going back to like when they book an appointment or when they're coming into your office, just give us a little bit of the bottom line of some ideas or things you guys have done to really enhance that client experience.
Sure. So we call it the red carpet service, right? So as soon as you would pull in, Dave, if you were coming into our office, the first thing we have is your own personalized parking space. and it says reserved especially for Dave Alison, right? People love that. Now, we do have some people that are kind of quiet and to themselves, and they say, thank you for doing that, but you don't have to put our name on there. So all we do is it's just, instead of not putting anything on there, we just say reserved for someone special, right?
I like
So
that.
everybody, yeah. So they come in, and then when they walk through the door, the first thing we do before we even go up there, we can go up there right away. We have one of the team members greet them, start a conversation, offer them some soda, water, coffee, everything but beer. The beer is for us later on during the day. And then we have cookies in the lobby and some candy. And I'd say about 5 years ago, one of the clients says, you have all this stuff. I'm a healthy eater. Do you have any fruit? So now what we do is we put bananas and grapes and apples, and we put a bowl of fruit out there as well. And then some other things, just, when someone passes away, instead of sending flowers, what we'll do is we'll send a fruit basket to the house, because we know we can't imagine what they're going through, but we want to let them know that they're in our prayers. Someone's sick. We talk about it on our weekly meetings. If anybody's sick, what we do is we send them a plant. Again, we send a plant because flowers die. Valentine's Day, we send out a box of candy to all the widowers. Just let them know we're thinking about them today. On their birthdays, if we set up an appointment, we'll set up the appointment and have them come in on their birthday sometimes, and then we'll have a little cupcake with a candle, and then the team will come in and we'll sing happy birthday to them. Here's a neat one. When they have grandbabies, right? They have a grandbaby. We have a little trophy, and this baby's laying on the trophy, and then it has their height, weight, how many ounces. And it's just something that goes a really long way. Just letting them know that we care and we're thinking about them. A couple of things we have done, special anniversaries. If it's like their 50th anniversary or their 90th birthday, we'll hold a party, but we don't do anything. All we do is set up the venue, pay for the meal. We get the children involved. We have them invite everybody, and we don't even show up. Now, of course, they ask us to, but we don't talk about anything. And they're just saying, or, hey, Tony's the one that did this for us. So it's just trying to create that value, that wow experience, right? That's just a few things that we do.
Yeah, that's great. How about like implementation of all of that? Is it something that it's more your team is always trying to listen for those opportunities, and then like you guys bring it to like a weekly meeting to talk about what to do to execute? Or are there certain things like you're tracking in your CRM that are kind of giving you notifications to do this or that for certain clients? Have you kind of cracked the code on the organization and implementation of some of those things?
Yeah, and it's all about the processes, right? So we utilize the CRM. What's been really a good game changer, we're implementing the EOS system. So we're having our level 10 meetings. And in those level 10 meetings, it talks about those client events or what's going on with the clients and stuff. So that's always top of mind, but it's all the processes. And we have a list of our red carpet services, so the teams know to look out for that. So Carolyn, when she's setting our appointments, she knows that, hey, if a birthday's coming up, set that appointment up on their birthday, right? So yeah, it's a process.
Gotcha. Yeah. And it's interesting. I was talking with Jason Smith a couple weeks ago, and he shared this idea that I really loved the concept of it. And we're actually in the process later today. I've got a couple hour meeting with our team to set our quarterly rocks in the EOS world for the second quarter here. And this is definitely going to be one of the rocks. But what Jason has started to do, especially like in a little bit larger of a firm, they have a very large firm. You have a pretty big team. We on our team have 3 advisors and client service associates, and everyone's interacting. But we've always operated on traditionally this 2-chair approach for our diamond or higher clients, where there's a first chair advisor, which for like a red diamond client is typically me. And then there's a second chair advisor, which is somebody who's really kind of helping implement, organize, do all the planning, do all the action items and the to-dos. But Jason was kind of introducing this concept of a third person that's going to be assigned to every client, which is the relationship manager. And in many cases, it would be that first chair advisor. In some cases, it might actually be the second chair advisor. In other cases, it might be the financial planner. In other cases, it might be the client service associate. But like the relationship manager is the person who's got the deepest and best friendship with the client. And so, like, I have some clients that maybe I'm the first chair advisor on, but somebody else on my team actually has a deeper friendship with that client. And what we're doing now, actually, this morning, I went through every one of our clients based on categorization, starting at red diamond, then blue diamond, then diamond, then opal and ruby. And I just picked off the top of my head who I felt in our firm was going to be the relationship manager on each of those clients. And then we're going to do a meeting to see if I got it right or reshuffle some people around. But it's going to be the role of that relationship manager to just make sure, number one, that the client is incredibly happy and satisfied, that they feel connected, and that we know what's going on in that client's life to do just quick check-in calls. To your point, we do a Monday morning L10 meeting where we have a people headline section. That's where I want to be able to have that relationship manager come and say, hey, by the way, Susie's having a grandbaby, or Bob's son's getting married, or John's going on vacation and they're staying at the Hyatt in Cancun. Maybe we should send them a gift to their room when they check in. Like, and I feel like when Jason told me that idea, like I was just like, I need that for what we're doing. And it's something, again, as a rock for this quarter, we're going to start to implement. But I thought that was another way to kind of add to exactly what you're talking about here, being able to actually deliver and execute on this red carpet service. Because I think we all conceptually want to offer this amazing high level service, but sometimes we fail on the execution or the details.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Wanting to do something and actually doing it is two different things, isn't it?
Definitely. So, you mentioned something when you were sharing the ideas. I know you've been doing this for a long time. So I would imagine you actually have multi-generations of clients in your practice. Maybe started with mom and dad. Now you've got kids as clients and they're adult kids. Maybe there's even grandkids who are starting to become of age to need help with financial planning. Is there anything you're doing, kind of any ideas from like that multi-generational strategy of just kind of blowing it out of the water with servicing and supporting those families?
Yeah. One of our company's uniques is we're going on our third generation, right, of clients. Now, Dave, I know I look too young to be going on third generation, right? But we do have 3 clients that we're actually on our third generations. Not only have we helped their mom, their daughter, and now the grandchildren. And we talk about that with clients. And one of the key tools that really transformed our service delivery is the family estate organizer, that FEO, right? If we're not tapping into that, if you're not tapping into that, you need to, because it's a game changer. This is something that I wanted to incorporate and implement. And this has just made it so much quicker tapping into these processes with C2P. So before incorporating tools like the FEO, we recognized the need to streamline our processes. And it ensured that we were providing that support to our clients and their families. The FEO provided this through C2P, and it's been a game changer in all regards. So rather than reinventing the wheel, Dave, we just embraced this tool and enhanced our services. This has just been really a great tool because, again, in the business, delivering that red carpet service, it means going above and beyond. Anticipate those needs of those clients. Leveraging the tools like the FEO and constantly seeking out the new ideas and innovations, we're just able to provide that personal attention and support that our clients deserve across the generations. So yeah, that FEO is a game changer.
It is so much. And to your point, it helps generate opportunities. I mean, as you were just sharing that story, there was a quick example I just want to give of a client of mine who's in the married couple in California. They're 72 years of age, pretty high net worth. They've got about $20 million of net worth, maybe 25 million. And about 10 million is investable assets. The rest is real estate and things like that. And we built out their bucket plan. We did a lot of estate planning work. And one of their primary goals is how do they maximize net after tax, the money that gets passed on to their 3 adult children. And so we did a lot of strategic planning on Roth conversions, and we're doing some estate planning work with trust work. And we set up some pretty large life insurance policies to help be able to pass some of this wealth on tax free. And we built all this out in their bucket plan, where their now and soon bucket was basically going to take care of their income and cash flow for as long as they were alive. And then the later bucket was all structured to maximize the net after tax wealth to their family. And then we built their family estate organizer. We got everything all organized. Once the bucket plan was done, all the assets were moved over to our firm to manage. We built the family estate organizer. I met with them in my California office. We walked through it, and they brought one of their adult children into that meeting, the one who was local. And what ended up happening from that meeting of showing the adult child the bucket plan and the family estate organizer is, and Tony, you've probably heard this too, mom and dad were like, could you do this for Laura and her assets as well? Well, Laura has about 1.2 million plus a home, and she's going to be the beneficiary. So Laura ended up moving her assets over. We built her family estate organizer. And then mom and dad said, I'd like you to take our other 2 children through our bucket plan, our estate plan, and our family estate organizer, so that if something happens to us, they know where everything is. And so we did a Zoom meeting. One of the children was in Houston, the other one was in LA. And when we showed them all the work that we did, the child in LA said, you know what? My other advisor's not connecting the dots like all this. I just want to hire you and have everything under one roof. He's got 3.5 million of assets. The only one I haven't brought on as a client yet is the third daughter over in Houston. And the reality of it is, with the work that we've done, we're probably anticipating, assuming clients live to life expectancy, about $15 million of inheritance going to each child. And that's all stuff we'll retain, but it's because we took the time to have those family meetings, to educate the children. I didn't know if the children had any money or not. It was just part of the service that we were delivering to mom and dad. And obviously they are a great client. But I think using those tools like the bucket plan, like the family estate organizer, to connect the dots, I can think of countless stories, but that was just a more recent one of where it just paid dividends to do the extra work. And the last thing that I'll share, talking about estate planning, and when I asked Brittany, who joined our team in August, why you believe we have this 11-star service standard, because she wanted to add that as our core value, I said, can you give us some examples? And she said, well, Dave, I've seen how other advisors operate, and I'll give you a really quick example. When you recommend to a client that they need a trust or the core documents, you don't just refer the advisor to the attorney. You spend an hour walking the client through what all those documents are, who the people in their lives are that should fulfill the role of trustee and guardian and trust protector. And then you actually sit in the meeting with the attorney, and then you do another meeting with the client after you sit in the meeting with the attorney to make sure that the client was comfortable with the attorney and the decisions that they had. And she said, what I've seen with other advisors is they say, hey, you need a trust and core documents, go meet with John, the attorney, and then the client's all on their own. She said, like, I was blown away that you guys actually take that extra effort. And for me, like, I didn't even really think of it as a big deal. Like, I just do it because we all know, like, if you leave the client to their own accord, especially with stuff like estate planning, it never gets done. So, like, I want to make sure I'm in the meetings to make sure it's getting done. But there's so many little things like that that you could implement in the business to just, again, deliver a high value to the client.
Sure. That's it. Yeah, it's brilliant, because most of my clients were getting like 70 years old and 80 years old. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be out of business if I don't start doing something. And I said, this wealth is going to go somewhere. So that's why we have those family meetings, because I don't want them to meet me when it's not the right time to be meeting them, when that client passes away, right?
Exactly. So, Tony, as we wrap up here, any last bits of kind of advice for the advisors listening today on improving client connections or providing this elevated service level?
Yeah, people don't care how much we know, right? They care how much we care. When it's not about the knowledge and expertise, it's truly about listening, understanding those needs, and being there for those people every step of the way, just like you are with your clients, Dave, right? And when clients know we generally care about them and their financial goals, it strengthens that relationship. It allows everybody to work together more efficiently towards the long-term success. That personal trust can truly set you apart and build those long-lasting relationships.
Well said. Well, I know it's Friday morning and both of us, I'm sure, would rather be out on the boat fishing than sitting here chatting away on this podcast. But this was really helpful, Tony. I hope everyone got some great nuggets of value out of here to continue to think about how they can improve their client experience. And we will see you on the next episode.
Thanks for tuning in. This podcast was brought to you by C2P, an organization whose purpose is to educate, train, grow, and support holistic financial advisors so families can achieve true prosperity. Never miss an episode by subscribing now to discover new resources and strategies. Visit c2penterprises.com to learn how we can help scale and secure your business. At the time of delivery and any subsequent publishing, information was deemed reliable, but is subject to change by the time of listening or viewing. The contents of this piece include options and projections of C2P, are subject to change, and are for informational purposes only. The information provided in this presentation is not intended to be individual investment, tax, or legal advice.